You already know. It's your boy Nemesis from Mad Labs TV, and I'm chilling with my boys, Riz and Russ, on the Riz and Russ Experience. Let's go.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Russ from the Riz and Russ Experience, and I'm dropping in today to talk about why the National Football League is full of shit. Now, you ask yourself, Russ, why is the NFL full of shit? Why are you saying this? Do you like the NFL? I love the NFL. It brings me joy. It brings all of you guys joy every Sunday from September to February. It's a fantastic sport. It's the most popular sport in this country, and it's the most profitable sport in this country. But with that said, there's some dirty truths and some BS that goes along with it. And one of the first things that comes to mind is safety. Now, the NFL is trying to be, the games are trying to be a little bit more safer. I think largely due to the head injury study that has come about within the last, I'd probably say 5 to 7 years. There's a lot of studies. A lot of retired players have been suffering from brain injuries due to the constant pounding that it takes to be an NFL football player. There have been some retired NFL players that have tried to sue the league because they weren't properly informed about the dangers of football, and they're just trying to make the game safer. Helmet-to-helmet hits get you those are automatic penalties. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this year in the season that you can be thrown out if you intentionally helmet-to-helmet somebody, which that's kind of tough to do because the game's fast, and you may have let's just say a wide receiver going over the middle, and you see a safety trying to close in, and they're trying to use they're trying to tackle, may use their shoulder, and aim with their shoulder, but unfortunately with that speed and how big these players are, the helmets might collide with each other, and that might be a penalty. That might be a helmet to helmet, which may result into a penalty. So those are those tricky things that are kind of making it tough. And the reason why I say they're full of shit on safety is because they weren't proactive about it. They were reactive about it. It took a lot of people complaining, a lot of bad hits to finally step in and say, well, we need to do something about it, instead of maybe being proactive and try to stop all that from the beginning, which they did not do. And the whole concussion thing, I know they're a lot stricter on concussions. If they see you, woozy and wobbly, they'll take you out of the game. And concussions, concussions is a serious thing. If they even see that they see that you're woozy or wobbly, they won't put you back into the game. See, I believe they have independent doctors that come out and take a look at you. So that's a good thing. But I think they're trying to use the concussion thing as a cover up, because concussions are not always linked to brain injuries, which means that you may never have a concussion, but you could still wind up with severe brain injuries because it's just constant contact, with your head, which it's just the constant pounding of the game. So that's something that you just can't stop. It's just the nature of the beast. That's just the nature of football. When you're tackling week in and week out for, let's just say, 5 to 10 years, that bad things might happen. I mean, that's just the nature of the sport. So I don't really know what they can do. I commend them for trying, but I think when they start affecting the games and flags are getting thrown on plays that don't necessarily need to be flagged, it's one of those things that it's like I said earlier. It's the nature of the game. You're having fast athletes run into each other at a high speed. You're gonna get plays here. You're gonna get plays like that, and unless you can see that it's intentional, you got to be really, really careful about throwing flags out there, because you're affecting the game, and it makes the game tough to watch when you see a lot of flags out there. So when the NFL says they care about safety, I believe they care about safety to a certain extent. I believe they care when money starts affecting them. I don't think they're proactive about it. So when the NFL says they care about safety, I think they care about that lawsuit more. Second thing I want to talk about is NFL and women. And you ask yourself, well, you could be a female listener right here. Well, Russ, what are you talking about? The NFL and women. And why do you think they're full of shit? Well, I think they're full of shit because when NFL players have domestic issues in the past, they have really never really done anything about it. For years, I've always seen on the internet, in the NFL note stories that you may see a player, maybe a lesser known player, get in trouble with an incident with a woman, and it may result in a fine, it may result in a suspension, or it may not result in anything. It kind of really depends on the nature of it. I have seen some terrible things from players in the past, and I want to in one that I will never forget. It is something that me and Riz saw when this happened while we were in college, so this would be in the early 2000s. It was running back Michael Pittman, who played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I believe Michael Pittman had an issue with his wife, and it boiled over to the point where he tried to use his car and try to run over his baby mother and kids that were in the car. So he tried to. So it was like a head-to-head collision. He was trying to take her out with his kids in the car. That was a serious issue. And I remember him playing the next season, and it wasn't even a big deal about that. They didn't really do anything about that. They didn't really make it really just wasn't a publicized deal. And I always said to myself, I mean, are they going to do anything about that? I mean, what he did was pretty severe. It's probably still one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard. And there's been plenty of domestic issues between the early 2000s to now, but he didn't really catch any major punishment for that. Now, the big domestic issue that happened was the whole Ray Rice thing. And we know what Ray Rice did. He hit his now wife in the elevator. I remember when I first saw the video. I was like, wow, that's pretty bad. And when it came out, it wasn't really that publicized. And I believe he might have was going to get a 1 or 2 game suspension. But like a few months later, the video got more attention, and the NFL had to really jump on it. They weren't really going to do anything to him. Goodell was going to give him a 1 or 2 game suspension for him hitting his now wife in the elevator with video footage. I mean, they weren't really going to do anything about it. They weren't going to do anything about it unless people didn't get on him. I mean, the public outcry was just too severe, and Ray Rice had to pay the price. And the crazy thing is that these domestic cases have been going on a long time, but anything that's on video, it's just a little bit more striking. I wish the past incidents that weren't on video got treated the same way, but video footage always affects things more, which is kind of crazy to me. If I read it, plus I see it, it should still be the same, but as society, we're just not wired that way. But the NFL doesn't really care about those domestic issues. They don't. They really never did. They'll slap you with a 1 or 2 game. They just don't really care. But the NFL, on the other hand, every October is going to make money with the breast cancer thing and sell that merchandise. They'll make money off you then. But when it's these domestic issues, they don't really want to step in. They don't really want to do what's right. And to me, everything is a case-by-case thing. But, what's the NFL? I mean, what do you care about? Do you care about money, or do you care about protecting people? And I believe with the whole Ray Rice thing, if Ray Rice would have gotten maybe a half a season, everything would have been fine. He probably would have still maybe played 1 or 2 years. But since he got a light, he got 1 or 2 games, and then the outcry, he was never going to play again because no other team was going to touch him because it was that severe. So the NFL handled it. I mean, Ray Rice let himself down first and foremost, but the NFL let him down because the NFL would have given him a reasonable suspension and it never would have blown up to what it was, though. So, the NFL, I guess they're trying to do better in the whole domestic violence thing, but I don't really think they're doing that. I don't really think they're doing anything. They're just being reactive. They're not proactive. And to me, it's disgusting, but as long as those checks keep coming in, it's really not going to matter. And the last thing here about why the NFL is full of shit is when the NFL is talking about distractions. You always hear that. Distractions, distractions, distractions. You can't bring in players that bring distractions to the team. And the main person who is suffering that right now is Colin Kaepernick. Now, we're going up on a year with Kaepernick with the whole kneeling down during the national anthem before the game. It was I believe it was the third preseason game of last year. Public outcry, people were pissed off at him, and certain demographic just wasn't happy with it. Now, Colin Kaepernick, he opted out of his contract with the 49ers, and he became a free agent. Now, Kaepernick, looking at his numbers, he, I guess, had a decent season last year. I can't say I saw too much of 49ers games. That's not something I was really trying to do. But if you look at his numbers, he had a pretty decent season. So, is he good enough to be a starter? I don't know. I'm a Bears fan, and Mike Glennon is my quarterback, and I doubt that Mike Glennon is better than Kaepernick. Like, seriously. Now, do I want Kaepernick as my starting quarterback? Not necessarily. But can I confidently say that Mike Glennon is better than Colin Kaepernick? No, I cannot. So can Colin Kaepernick get a backup job? Yes, he can. Because you know what the job of a backup is? The job of a backup is to get you out of the game and maybe hold the fort down for 2 to 3 games. You know, keep the offense moving. Maybe have to scale the playbook back a little bit, but just enough to keep things afloat. I think the ship is not sinking. That's why I think a backup quarterback is supposed to be. Okay? And guys like Mark Sanchez, Dan Orlovsky, Geno Smith, they've all been signed, but Colin Kaepernick can get signed. But he's such a distraction. And that's such bullshit because he's a backup quarterback. Yeah, if he gets signed, he may get asked a few questions about the national anthem thing. But, you know, as the season gets on, he's just going to be a backup. And you're not going to be asking those questions anymore. And the NFL pays all this money. I know they've got the best public relations people in America in that league. And you guys can't figure out how to still be an effective team without distraction? Get the fuck out of here. Okay? It's such bullshit. You don't want to sign him because you're afraid of the public outcry. Because Colin Kaepernick kneeled, and he's done great things since he did that. And, you know, the one thing Kaepernick could do for himself, I would say, is maybe come out and say, does he want to be a starter? People are speculating, does he want to be a starter? Does he want to be a backup? I mean, I guess he could express that himself. But, I mean, the NFL doesn't really have a lot of good quarterbacks. Certainly doesn't have a lot of good backup quarterbacks. So to have someone who has played at a high level before, who's played in big games, he could be a solid backup for you. Just because he's professional, he should be able to keep things afloat. So the whole distraction is a bunch of bullshit. These guys get paid a lot of money to do their job. And distractions means if, you know, you had a guy maybe committed a crime, was and causing problems in the locker room, yeah, that's something you don't have to deal with. The whole kneeling for the national anthem thing, that's not a distraction because that's not a bad thing. He didn't commit a crime. It's not illegal. He kneeled down for very specific reasons. The crazy thing, the reasons that he said he kneeled down are still going on today. So when these guys are giving you he's going to be too much of a distraction, you can kiss my ass with that. Because they're just afraid of the public outcry of certain people that don't want to see him employed because they somehow got offended by kneeling down. In the NFL, these GMs are just using that distraction thing is just to cover up the BS. They're just covering up their bullshit, and I see right through it, and a lot of you guys see right through it. So, anytime you hear the word distractions, anytime you hear anything about safety, or you hear anything about them caring about women, you know, I would be a little bit skeptical with it, because any of those 3 things that I've talked about today, you don't have a good track record for it. So those are the reasons. Those are a few main reasons why I believe that the NFL is full of shit. But guess what? When that second September Sunday rolls around, I will be watching. I can't lie, you will be too. I still love it, even though I see the bullshit and I can't walk away with it. Maybe I should walk away because maybe if they lost viewership, it'd be better. But it's not something that I can do. It's not something a lot of you guys do. And I will be there to enjoy the NFL. when it starts up in September. So that's all for you guys. That's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate it. I will be back soon on the Risen Russ Experience. So you guys have a fantastic rest of the day. I'm out.